If you're listening to this on your commute right now, just take a second and think about what you literally just drove past.
Boy, I bet most people couldn't even tell you.
Right, because it's probably, I don't know, a billboard advertising car insurance or like a generic yield sign, maybe a massive concrete overpass.
Just all that invisible infrastructure we totally tune out.
Exactly. We are so accustomed to the infrastructure of our daily lives being purely functional and, well, mostly invisible. But I want you to imagine for a second that you are driving down this modern paved road.
Okay, picture it.
The radio's playing, you're flanked by these really lush green hills in the distance, and you are approaching a standard traffic roundabout.
Like 1,000 others you've driven through.
Yeah, exactly. Only instead of, a patch of neglected grass or some scraggly bushes in the center, the entire intersection is dominated by a colossal bronze-colored warrior.
It's massive.
Right. His muscles are tense, and he is drawing back this enormous bow and arrow right over the asphalt.
It honestly forces a complete mental gear shift. Like you're sleepwalking through your modern routine, and suddenly, boom, you are confronted by a figure of just mythic proportions.
It's so jarring.
It really is. I mean, public art usually exists quietly in the background of a city, right? But this completely disrupts the mundane landscape. It demands that you pause and basically recalibrate your entire sense of place.
And that is exactly the core mission for our deep dive today. We're looking at one exceptionally striking photograph of the Bassar monument.
Such a powerful image.
We're going to unpack the visual storytelling, the intricate symbolism, and the literal text carved into this stone and bronze structure. Because we aren't just here to, describe a statue.
No, not at all.
We're trying to decode the underlying psychology of why this specific warrior, standing on this specific pedestal, was placed in the dead center of a bustling traffic circle.
And to really do that, we have to look at the tension in the design. Because every single element in this image, I mean, from the towering archer at the apex, down to the French inscriptions and even the modern vehicles circling its base, it's all working together.
Like an ecosystem.
Yeah, an ecosystem articulating a really complex idea about cultural identity and the passage of time.
Well, let's start with the visual that immediately arrests your attention, which is the apex of the monument.
The archer himself.
Right. We are looking at this imposing, highly stylized, muscular man. He is captured in this incredibly dynamic mid-action pose, standing with his legs planted wide, just drawing back a colossal bow.
And you really have to notice the deliberate contrast between the anatomy and the adornment here.
What do you mean?
Well, the musculature is incredibly tense and exaggerated, right? Particularly in the chest and the arms pulling that bowstring. Yet he is wrapped in traditional elements that ground him in a very specific heritage.
Oh, I see what you mean. He's wearing this patterned headpiece that wraps really tightly across his forehead. And he has these heavy tiered necklaces resting on his collarbone. And he's wearing this heavily patterned, sort of kilt-like garment, a loincloth with thick folds of fabric draped between his legs.
It's very grounded in tradition.
But here's the thing that really stands out to me. When you look at most monuments in public parks, they look static.
Very posed.
Yeah, they look like they're posing for an oil painting or something. You see a general sitting on a horse or some politician holding a rolled-up document. But this figure feels completely different.
How so?
It just feels like a tightly coiled spring.
That kinetic potential is really what sets it apart, because statues are traditionally designed to project permanence,
Right.
And stillness. They act as anchors.
Right.
But this artist has essentially hit pause on a high-speed camera.
Honestly, it feels almost hostile to me. I mean, he's pulling that bowstring back so far that the arrow looks like it could fly right across the roundabout and shatter a windshield at any second.
It's intense, for sure.
It's a literal freeze frame of violent action suspended right over a public roadway.
I would actually push back on the idea of it being hostile, and instead maybe focus on the specific psychological energy of the weapon itself.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Well, think about the difference between a sword and a bow.
Right.
When public art features a figure holding a sword aloft, it signals immediate close-quarters combat. It's about defending a static line or leading a charge.
Like a very immediate threat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But a drawn bow represents something entirely different. It requires calculation. I mean, it is active defense, yes, but it demands unwavering tunnel vision focus on a very distant target.
That makes a lot of sense.
You can't draw a heavy bow and casually look around at your surroundings.
Yeah.
Your eyes must be totally locked on what is directly in front of you.
So you're literally forced to look forward. The weapon dictates the entire posture.
Precisely.
Mm.
It projects this overarching power outward into the space, aiming at a future state.
Right.
And that creates this really fascinating friction with the environment.
Oh, totally.
You have this ancient warrior decked out in traditional necklaces and a patterned cloth suspended right above modern asphalt. It's the ancient world actively asserting its vitality over the modern commute.
It refuses to be relegated to the past.
Exactly.
But, I mean, a drawn bow requires solid footing, right? You can't generate that kind of kinetic energy if you're standing on quicksand.
Obviously not.
So the tension of the archer has to be anchored by something substantial, which kind of naturally pulls our eyes downward from the solitary hero to the foundation supporting him.
Right. We move from the singular apex down to the collective base. And honestly, the pedestal here is just as communicative as the archer himself.
I would argue it's one of the most bizarrely shaped pedestals I've ever seen.
It is unique.
Usually an artist places a statue on a sheer vertical block of marble or like a stark concrete cylinder. The goal is basically just to elevate the hero above the eye line of the crowd.
It's a functional block.
Yeah. But this base is curved. It looks like a giant bowl or a boat that sweeps dramatically upward at the outer edges.
It does have that vessel shape.
And the entire surface of this vast vessel is totally covered in intricate, high-relief bronze sculptures.
It really functions as a tapestry of the collective society. When you take a closer look at the relief work, you're looking at dozens of smaller, distinct figures carved into those sweeping sides.
Yeah, looking at the image, I can see elders holding long staffs kind of clustered together. There are community members engaged in deep conversation, families standing shoulder to shoulder.
It's just densely packed with humanity.
It is. But I have to be honest, I kind of question the utility of this design choice.
Really? Why?
Well, we're looking at a photograph of a traffic circle. There's a white SUV driving by. There's a guy on a motorcycle.
Right, it's busy.
If people are navigating this intersection at 30 or 40 miles an hour, putting thousands of hours into carving intricate individual faces onto the base feels like a disservice to the artist. Like, no driver is going to catch those details as they speed past.
See, I think you're evaluating it as if it were a museum piece.
What do you mean?
Like something meant to be scrutinized under gallery lighting for 5 minutes and then left behind. Public art operates on a completely different timescale.
Okay, fair point.
It is designed to seep into the subconscious over years, or even decades, of daily exposure. Even if a driver only catches a blur of bronze faces on a Tuesday morning commute, the broader visual metaphor remains completely intact.
I get it. So the overarching shape communicates the message, even if the fine details are blurred by speed.
The overarching shape is the message. The metaphor is that the towering hero up top is completely reliant on the community below.
It's all connected.
Yes, the base is physically demonstrating that the warrior's strength, that tightly coiled kinetic energy we discussed, is drawn directly from the collective society. The archer didn't just drop out of the sky, he grew out of his people.
He is literally resting his feet on the shoulders of the community. That explains all the figures, definitely. But what about that sweeping bowl-like shape?
Well, think about what a vessel does.
Yeah.
A vessel transports things of value. A bowl holds sustenance, right?
Yeah.
The curved shape implies that the community itself is a container for this culture. It's carrying the heritage forward, sweeping upward at the sides to physically lift this singular representation of their strength into the sky.
Wow, that's beautiful.
It reframes a very autocratic-looking warrior into something profoundly democratic. The power actually belongs to the foundation.
That drastically changes the dynamic of the whole monument for me. And this is interesting, the designers didn't want to leave this entirely up to visual interpretation, did they?
No, they made sure it was explicit.
Right. They didn't want to rely solely on the chance that some commuter would organically deduce the metaphor of the vessel. They decided to make their message undeniably clear by literally carving a manifesto into the bronze below the archer's feet.
The text serves as the explicit key to the visual lock we've basically been trying to pick.
Exactly.
Right in the center of that sweeping bowl, very prominently displayed, are several lines of French text.
Let me read through the inscriptions on the front here. At the very top, in the largest, boldest letters, it reads, People Bassar, which translates to the Bassar people.
Right.
Directly beneath that, in a slightly smaller font, are 3 distinct words separated by dots. Fear, unite, valor X. Proud, united, brave.
And then following that, there's another line of 3 words, higher, aujourd'hui.domain. Yesterday, today, tomorrow.
And finally, running along the very bottom rim of the base, right where the monument literally meets the street level, it says, Bassar, nos racines, notre force, notre avenir. Bassar, our roots, our strength, our future.
It's incredibly poetic.
It is. But when you take all of that in together, it functions almost like a corporate mission statement or a manifesto of endurance. It takes this vast, nuanced cultural identity and distills it down into these powerful, easily digestible pillars of pride.
It is highly distilled, but notice the language choice itself. They're using French, which is the official language of Togo.
Yeah.
But historically, I mean, it is a colonial language.
That's a fascinating layer.
Right. Using the language of the former colonizer to boldly assert indigenous local Bassar identity and pride is a massive reclamation of power.
It's turning it around completely.
Yes. It broadcasts their heritage in a language universally understood across the region, ensuring the message cannot be marginalized or ignored by anyone passing through.
So it basically guarantees the message is legible to outsiders, not just locals.
Exactly.
And what I love is how the text completely mirrors the visual structure of the monument. It operates as a cohesive ecosystem of meaning. Like, think about the specific words, roots and yesterday.
Those concepts map directly onto the bottom of the structure. They connect to the high-relief carvings of the ancestors, the elders holding staffs, the families forming the foundation.
They are the literal roots.
Right.
Then you move up a line to strength and brave. That points straight to the muscular archer towering above.
The physical embodiment of that strength.
Yeah.
And the final piece of the sequence, tomorrow and future.
Which brings us right back to the tension of the drawn bow and the arrow aiming outward.
It's brilliant. The artist has created a deliberate, cohesive timeline of cultural endurance carved right into bronze and stone.
It's so rare to see that.
It is, because monuments historically lean backward. They're usually memorials dedicated entirely to yesterday. They exist to commemorate an event that has already concluded, or a person who has already died.
Right, like a tombstone, essentially.
Exactly. But what makes this installation so striking is its orientation toward tomorrow. Yesterday is the foundation, today is the tension of the archer, and tomorrow is where the arrow is aimed.
It's a timeline of survival, but the reality is this grand, sweeping timeline of yesterday, today, and tomorrow isn't sitting in a quiet, sterile sculpture garden.
No, far from it.
It's placed right in the middle of where the community lives. It's very noisy, chaotic every day today.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the final and perhaps most jarring layer of this image, the environment surrounding the monument.
The physical context is arguably just as critical to the monument's impact as the bronze itself.
The juxtaposition we're looking at is just so jarring. Let's survey the background a bit. We have this towering, mythic bronze warrior asserting his dominance. But what is flanking him on either side?
Bright green, highly reflective highway directional signs.
The ultimate symbols of mundane utilitarian infrastructure.
Completely mundane. On the left, there is a green sign pointing to Bitchabi. On the right, another sign pointing toward Dimoria and Bonaparbi.
Real places.
Yeah, these aren't mythical realms. They are real destinations. Real people are using these signs right now to figure out where they are going to work or where they're buying groceries.
It's ordinary daily life.
Right. As we noted, there's a white SUV navigating the circle on the right and a motorcycle banking around the curve on the left. Everyday pedestrians are walking casually around the perimeter, just completely dwarfed by this bronze giant.
It's quite a scene.
And all of this is set against a bright blue sky with scattered clouds and these rolling, lush hills in the background. It really initiates a dialogue between the sacred and the profane. You have this timeless expression of cultural unity forced to share visual space with reflective street signs and exhaust fumes.
See, I'll be honest, placing this incredible piece of art in a traffic circle feels like a cynical zoning board compromise to me.
You think so?
I do. You have this profound statement of identity, and you stick it in an intersection where people are inevitably frustrated by their commutes, swerving around SUVs, and just trying to get from point A to point B. It feels like a disservice to the art to put it in a place where people are actively trying to leave.
You know, I actually view it from the exact opposite perspective.
Oh, really? Tell me.
Well, by placing this monument at a literal crossroads, the designers are putting heritage at the absolute center of modern movement. Think about the physical function of a traffic roundabout.
You have to go around it.
Right. You cannot drive in a straight line through it. The infrastructure physically forces you to alter your trajectory, to slow your momentum, and to curve your path around the center point.
You literally have to orbit the monument to get to your destination.
Exactly. You are orbiting your own culture. If this statue were placed in a museum or a dedicated park, a citizen would have to make a conscious, deliberate choice to go visit their history.
Which most people don't do on a Tuesday.
Exactly. It would be compartmentalized, totally separated from daily life.
Yeah.
By dropping it into the busiest intersection in the area, history becomes inescapable.
Wow.
The people of Bassar commute past this titanic symbol of their past and future every single day.
So it anchors the epic scale of their history in the reality of their everyday lives. You go to the pharmacy, you pass the ancestors, you commute to a job in Bachabi, you pass the archer.
It makes the aujourd'hui, the today, from the inscription, a literal physical reality.
And the tomorrow plays out in real time as people exit the roundabout and travel onward to their destinations.
Exactly. The intersection itself acts as a metaphor for a culture in motion. The community is moving forward in SUVs, on motorcycles, on foot. But the central pivot point around which all that modern progress turns is their shared identity. Proud, united, brave.
Man, let's just synthesize the journey we've just taken through this single image. We started by examining the sheer kinetic energy of a towering archer, a coiled spring of a warrior holding a drawn bow, demanding focus on the future.
A very powerful start.
Then we moved down to the foundation, analyzing how the sweeping vessel-like base uses a tapestry of elders and families to physically hold the hero up.
Drawing strength from the collective.
Right. We decoded the French inscriptions that lay out a clear mission statement of endurance, mapping yesterday, today, and tomorrow onto the structure itself. And finally, we zoomed out to see how placing this mythic figure in a modern traffic circle forces an entire community to physically orbit their own heritage every single day.
It just perfectly demonstrates how public art doesn't just decorate a void in a city plan, It actively defines the space, and it shapes the psychological landscape of the people moving through it.
It definitely challenges us to look differently at our own surroundings. I mean, if you are sitting in traffic right now or walking down a city street, I want you to consider your own daily environment.
Take a good look around.
Yeah. How are your community's roots, strength, and future represented in the spaces you navigate every day? Is there anything in your daily routine that forces you to pause and orbit your own history?
It's a critical question, and I would actually leave you with this final thought to explore on your own.
Lay it on us.
If an artist were commissioned to build a monumental structure at the absolute busiest intersection of your hometown today, what core values would be etched into the stone? What 3 words would accurately define your community right now?
That's a tough one.
And perhaps most revealing of all, who would be the figures carved into the bronze foundation, holding the entire weight of that future up?
Because as you navigate your own mundane commute, rounding the corner and suddenly coming face to face with the tension of that drawn burr, it serves as a stark reminder. The arrow of the future only flies true because it is anchored by the foundation of the past.